Nordic future. Shortly, I want to tell you what's Helsinki Think Company about before we start our panel discussion today. Entrepreneurship Society of University of Helsinki. Our mission is to bring interested in changing the world or making an impact. Kumpula and Meilahti, every campus of the University of Helsinki. The co-working spaces are free for everyone to use. And make an impact. We also organize events like this today, and then we have longer programs where one can learn needed skills to build your own company and so on. We have pretty strong program content I'm going to present shortly. We have a deep robot hackathon. Then we have longer 1 month idea acceleration. Impact accelerator for ready-made teams. Further next. It's for every student. And then with this let's see. As Mutiny, but it's meant for health tech startups. So if you're into health tech, you might check it out. Then you might the Refugee Council of Finland. We want to encourage people to reduce hate speech and come up with new ideas how to warmly welcome you to Helsinki Think Company. We're here. This is our Centrum space. We're open every Monday to Friday from 10 to 6. A few practice. You'll enjoy them, please keep them on that side because this area is hosted by the Fatser Cafe downstairs. So here you can enjoy ours. Have Amanda Rejström, Jessica Blechingberg, and Katariina Helaniemi. Welcome. So because of the Facebook live stream, so please use that microphone when you answer. So let's keep it rotated.
Cool. Testing.
Yeah. I want to when
If I can go, I would say I'm a fair positive person, and I bring a lot of energy always to people and rooms. That's kind of like also the general feedback.
That's a nice one. Hi, my name is Katariina Helaniemi. My superpower, I would say, Jessica has a good one, which I can refer to. But I would probably say getting other people in things, but also in hopefully larger things.
Both of those are good. So I'm Amanda, and I don't know. I was thinking, should I come up with a different one than Jessica, just because she said what I was about to say? But no, I'd say my superpower is also thinking about both. I think that in itself brings energy to any room.
great superpowers for all. And I encourage everyone to once in a while to think your own superpowers, because it's pretty powerful some morning to wake up and today my superpower is my memory or whatever. So it's good to think sometimes. In short, you all have great titles, which the things you achieved, but I would like to hear you personally tell your stories in short. How did you end up? Where are you now?
Wow. So currently, I run a company that activates people in terms of climate action. So we inspire climate action. And the dream behind that is creating a scalable business that actually mitigates emissions. So not just getting them to zero, producing something, but somehow doing it without any impact, but actually producing something that mitigates emissions. And the way we got there to that dream and to where we're now is actually through, I wanted to solve some of the world's biggest problems when I was back in school, when I was still a school kid, and then I looked at what are some of the world's biggest problems, and climate change was one of those. And I was always good at science, and I checked at sort of where do greenhouse gas emissions come from, and that led me to energy engineering, which led me into research about future energy systems. So how do we make energy systems and entire societies carbon neutral? And something that is present in all of those scenarios for how to build carbon neutral societies is behavioral change. We need to change some of the things that are very basic in our culture, like what we see as success. Do we always want to consume more? Do we always want the bigger car? Is success somehow the same as consuming more or making more money? And that's where we're at with Spark Sustainability. We try to tackle that. We try to create this new microculture which will grow into a macroculture, obviously, where we're focusing on all of the good that can come to you as a person or as a society when you start focusing on maybe living with more intent and, consuming less, I guess, mitigating emissions.
Yeah, I need to add that I'm admiring the take on how Spark Sustainability is trying to impact with like a positive way, that you don't shame people, you want to encourage people to do better. And I like the way that you think on the positive side, not like through the negatives.
Thank you. Good that I didn't change my superpower.
Yeah. How about Katariina? How did you find your way being an expert?
Well, that's a good question. I think already way back, like 10 years ago when I was starting my studies, I had a pretty good understanding of the fact that business is very powerful in this world, and it should be used for making the society better, not worse. And then through different steps of my school and working life, I was the chief curator at Slush at some point, and then that led me to San Francisco, where I just returned from this venture capital fund that invests in startup companies that are trying to solve the world's biggest problems with tech entrepreneurship. So basically using science to come up with solutions to all the great problems, but instead of acting like maybe science companies or scientists traditionally do, they are still using all the same tools and same ways of acting as companies like Facebook and Google, and learning from them to scale the companies. So yeah, I think I already had the understanding of how business should be used and could be used for the better. But during my time at Slush, I also understood that, hey, it's a very, very, very narrow group of portion of people who are actually creating these companies. And that's why, together with two of my Slush colleagues, we also wrote a book called Kutsuvat, sitä, pöhinäksi. Maybe it could be translated as they call it a bus. I think it's actually originally Jessica's translation. But one of our points behind that book was that it cannot be the fact that only young male engineers build companies, but startups are such a powerful force, and companies in general, that they should be created by all kinds of people with all kinds of backgrounds and all kinds of educations. Yeah, so that's why we wanted to open that up. But I think it hasn't been a direct path, but the red cord has been there all the time.
Thank you.
Yes. And if you haven't downloaded the Spark Sustainability Donut app yet, please do so.
Yeah.
Or read Kutsuvat, sitä, pöhinäksi. It's an excellent book about entrepreneurship.
We were actually talking about that if you translated the name in English, so it would be like one call it buzzing or something like that.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But maybe a bit about my background. And today, well, I'm working with Maria 01. We are a community house for 150 startups, 12 VCs, and other ecosystem players located in the old hospital at Lapinlahden katu 16. So please come by there anytime. We have excellent lunch there. But maybe a bit how I ended up running a old hospital. I started actually my studies in 2013. I wanted to do, instead of just studying and sitting in libraries, I wanted to, kind of like get hands-on projects and do stuff. So I joined this entrepreneurial society, and kind of like my aim was just to do events and run social media. And then this society was very focused on entrepreneurship. And one of our kind of like first things that we did together was to go to Slush. And this was 2013. Cable Factory Slush was back then only an event of 7,000 people, so much smaller what it is compared today. And well, I thought it was going to be a boring entrepreneurial conference, but turned out it was a great party with amazing people who really wanted to create great companies and have an impact in the world. And I kind of like just got hooked by the volunteers and the team who was running the operations there, and that's kind of like how I the next year got to be part of Slush. And after volunteering a year, I was joining the team for 3 years, and I was mainly taking care of our Nordic operations, where I got to work with a lot of hubs, investors, startups in the Nordics, and also worldwide with the events we did. And kind of like what inspired me to kind of like join this whole startup and tech scene was that I kind of like was working with fashion and design for many years before that, and then just switched over to tech and entrepreneurship and working with startups, and kind of like I would never have guessed I would do so if you would have asked me a few years earlier. And kind of like what inspired me to actually do this switch was that I just found out that there's this amazing world and new technologies that I would never get to know about. And that's kind of like the story how I stick to the community and the startup ecosystem and get to work with a lot of people to Maria 01.
Great. I'm going to have individual questions for all of you. I did a little background checking, of course, and I found out that year 2018 was kind of big for all of you. First, Jessica, you took a part in the Talk the Talk show, and also you were chosen to be one of the most influential person in the Nordic tech scene, if I said it right. How was the Talk the Talk experience, and what did you gain from that?
So for the ones who don't know what Talk the Talk is, it's like a speakers program for people who wants to improve their speaking skills. And there was a big showcase at Musiikkitalo and a live stream. And I just got, well, I always kind of like enjoy to, present or due to my background in figure skating, I love to, perform in front of people and kind of like enjoyed this part super well. But when I applied to the program, I had no clue of what I wanted to speak about. But of course, everybody have a great story. If you can't figure that out yourself, you will for sure, if you kind of like go through your lifespan, kind of like get a hint of what the thing was. And well, I thought that, maybe I have something to say about my background in figure skating, which I did for 16 years, and which was kind of like the angle I wanted to bring into the stage. And basically that was about mental training and kind of like positive thinking and visualization that I wanted to tell the people, which was something I got to learn about when I was 8 years old, which is actually super cool when you think about it today, because a lot of people are thinking about like visualization and positive thinking, and it's more like accurate today than it has ever been. So it was kind of like cool that I kind of got to be part of that when I was a young little ice skating princess. But for me, it was also kind of like in the end to kind of like get out of my comfort zone and just talk about something else than I'm usually talking in my working life, which is startup tech and whatnot. And just, it's always good to get out of the comfort zone and just, take opportunities that comes against you. So join Talk the Talk. It's going to happen this year as well. I'm doing a lot of promotion now, but this great initiative is in our community.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
And gotta say, I was there at that time, and the audience was huge. So you were super brave to step on the stage that night.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Kata, how about you? The book you just mentioned came out on 2018, am I right? Yeah. How did you end up writing that? You mentioned that it was inspired by being the member of Slush. And how was the process of publishing a book about startup scene?
It was actually launched 2 years ago today. So basically 2 years ago.
Congratulations!
It all became as a joke. So we felt with two of my colleagues that we have received so much from this whole tech scene and the startup entrepreneurship community that this city has. We had all been doing Slush, and we wanted to share the knowledge that we had gained. We were like, we wish that people would know how much they can create if they just start doing things together. They don't have to be old, they don't have to be experienced, they don't have to, have all the things we think we have to have. You just have to start and start doing things. So someone had an idea, we should just write a book, which was not realistic in any way, but we started wondering how would we do this, and we just took some time. Saturday evening we sat down and wrote a project plan. We wrote like 2 chapters, what would it be about? And then the thought just kept on growing. We're like, people should know about this, and we would love to have scientists and people who, I don't know, do craftsmanship, and older and younger people involved with these things. And yeah, then it ended up with us talking to people who knew something about book publishing, and then step after step, you take one step at a time. And then at some point we were like, okay, these people actually know something about publishing. We're meeting with Ottawa.
Yeah.
We met with Ottawa. They gave us the publishing agreement. That was kind of horrifying moment. We're like, oh, we should really need to write the book. And yeah, then we just took time and started interviewing people. And we were feeling really bad. We were like, we have no experience about being an entrepreneur. Do we have the agency? Can we even do this thing? Can we even write a book? But then, self-confidence grows one step at a time. And then, yeah, it's like the big thanks goes to all the people who gave their interviews to us and who told us about entrepreneurship. But we had each other's support, and we just believe that this can be done. And we have said, actually, the thank yous in the book say that this book would never have happened without the community and how should I translate this? In Finnish we say itseään toteuttava ylivertaisuusharha.
Okay.
But basically the thought that you can do anything, and then if you think you can, then you actually will.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy sometimes, but it works pretty often. And that's what led to us. And then the next summer, we agreed to make a project about distributing to all the high schoolers in Finland, and it was distributed to more than 30,000 high schoolers with the pre-words from Sauli Niinistö. And all of these were like, okay, let's just try this. Let's just see if we could make this work. Let's just have one more go. So yeah, it all started as a joke and then kept on going.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I think like the common thing is that you have the community's background. Like you have the support and you have the community who is actually like pushing you to make it done.
Yeah.
So that's
it was a lot about the community.
Role.
Of course, we did quite a lot of work. Like
yeah.
I don't think I've ever worked that much, as we were work during the day and then book during the night.
Yeah.
But yeah, just community and working and believing that this maybe could be done.
What kind of feedback you got when the book got out? Like, what was the receiving process like? Did you get a lot of attention from the name, for example?
So many people said that you're so brave to write this book, and you're so brave to do something like this. And we were super honored, but also I think it showcases how so many people, so many of us have these dreams. We're like, oh, I would love to start a company, or I would love to create an app, or I would love to solve big problems, or I would love to write a book or something, whatever it is. But for some reason, we don't do them.
Yeah.
I think that was it hit me hard. I was like, whoa, maybe if we can make even one person believe in their dreams, then we're good.
Yeah. I think especially in Finland, there's been a discussion about the like then if kind of mindset that like sitten kun, like when I have the time in the future someday I'm gonna do this and this, like pushing the dreams further than just like taking a step and actually start doing.
Yeah. And we also felt that entrepreneurship is so important and we need more people to solve these big problems. So it was, even though we didn't know how to do it, we felt that, well, let's try.
Amazing job. How about Amanda? You and your team took a part in our Mutiny Impact Accelerator, and you won the competition in 2018. So congratulations!
Thank you.
How was that experience, and how was your team and the Spark Sustainability after the Mutiny?
Well, I have to say, and again, a little bit building on what Kata just said about believing in your dreams. I think the point where we applied to the accelerator back in the spring of 2018, that's when Spark was just still like a thought and like an experiment a little bit. Something that I hopped off my researcher career to sort of try out and see like, is this going to be anything? And then getting into the accelerator and then sort of taking part in the accelerator, and of course then in the end winning it. I mean, that we didn't believe that was unbelievable at the point. We're like, what just happened? All of those things sort of added to the self-confidence. So I feel a lot of the same things that Kata was just explaining about writing the book, that you just take one step and then you take another, and then sort of somehow at some point you're like, wow, we did all of those things. Like, how did that happen? Because at no single point you say, okay, now we're going to jump to there, but you're always just putting one foot in front of the other. So it was a really, really major thing for us as a founding team in terms of building confidence and building belief in the idea. But that said, I still have to concede that still at that point it was just a big dream and a big sort of dream. It was not what I would call I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but like a real company yet, because we weren't sure if our business model was going to work. Are we even yet? But I mean, now at least we have customers. Now something is working. But it was still this big dream. So taking part of Mutiny was actually maybe like a learning. It was a learning experience about confidence. It was like we learned that confidence grows over time. So even though we came out of Mutiny not being sort of on the top of the world and thinking, okay, wow, now it's just downhill from here and everything is just really, really, or that translates badly, but now it's just going to be easy from here on. What we'd learned was that confidence does grow. Like the more you work, the more you learn to believe in yourself, I guess.
And I think everyone knows, especially when working with entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship society or communities, that patience is one key word. That you know that there's going to be uphills and downhills, and patience is like what grows on you.
And that is something actually that I want to say still about Mutiny, that I thought at the time that it's amazing that there is this accelerator, even if it's like a small one, and it was at that time still a new one, that there is an accelerator for impact companies, because at that time I was still not sure if entrepreneurship is sort of the key. And what Jessica said, that you at some point, like asked earlier, you would have never thought that you find yourself in this tech entrepreneurial like situation now. And I have the same thing, that if you'd asked me 5 years ago, I would have never said that I'm going to become an entrepreneur. I thought, no, I'm going to be a researcher and research these big problems. And then suddenly I realized that entrepreneurship is this amazing way of getting things done, like making something happen. And that, as a concept, I think that Mutiny helps in sort of realizing that that's possible, realizing that entrepreneurship is a good vessel for creating change, or creating something that can then grow, and the change can actually, the impact can be bigger.
Yeah, that actually leads right next to my next question. There's been a lot of talk about impact and impact startups and like how to make an impact. And I know that there is a lot of different kind of meters to research impact and what that means. So I want to ask you guys that what impact means for you, and like what do you think when someone says that make an impact? Is it more personal, or is it actual like concrete changes, or what kind of?
This is a bit of a tricky question.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, I think all companies in the world, or at least 99% of the companies, they have an impact. They do something. They make an impact in the world. However, the impact is not always positive.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, these days when we talk about impact, we also, of course, tend to talk about those companies that are trying to make a positive impact. For me, when I think about what are the best impact companies, so to say, this is very strongly connected to my background in San Francisco and living in California for the past couple of years. But the most significant impact companies are the ones that are, first of all, trying to tackle the world's biggest problems, often defined with UN Sustainable Development Goals, and doing so in a scalable way, which very often, as Amanda showcases, come down to having researchers in the team, having people who understand science in the team. So that's how I define, like, people with science backgrounds often solving like world's biggest problems. Yeah. Sorry if I took
You kind of like sealed it.
Yeah.
You sealed it really well. So totally agree on that. But I remember in Stockholm, maybe 4 years ago, when they started this first like Nordic Impact hub in the Nordics, and it was founded by Niklas Adalbert, who is also the founder of Klarna. And he had kind of like, quit his job at Klarna, was like, okay, next, I don't want to build a billion-dollar company. I want to build a company that is going to help 1 billion of people. And kind of like, what is the impact you can have on the societies with tech, of course, to kind of like have a bigger impact, whether it's about, with the help of tech, to provide fresh water to people in certain countries, or just kind of like refer to the Agenda 2030 and the goals around like making more smarter cities, or provide education to everybody in the world, and making things more fair. So that's kind of like how I really look at impact, and kind of like the positive thing that they can generate to the society.
Yeah.
I agree with everything that was said, and trying to think of something to add to this. I would say, because I've been thinking about this for a while, like, why is there suddenly so much talk about impact? and there's impact investment, and there's the impact hubs, and everyone, a lot of the people who write to us who want to do an internship or come to work for Spark are saying, yeah, I really know that I want to do something. I want to work in a company that is about the impact. And I've been thinking about this, like, where is this coming from and what is it about? And I think I agree that how to measure impact is definitely, I agree that that's about sort of, are you solving one of the world's biggest problems and are you doing it scalably? That's sort of the like macro way to look at it. But if we look at it like why does it matter to people, and why is the micro level interesting at this moment in our culture? I think that's got to do a lot with that as a society. A lot of the activities in our economy are not value adding anymore. We tend to work in jobs that we're not always sure why we work in them and what is actually being added to the world. So as Kata said, it's not always clear if the impact of every company is purely positive. There might be a positive impact, but there might be a lot of negative impact as well. And I think as human beings, it's just really important. How can I work in something that is impactful? So yeah, you can look at it at the macro level and start sort of calculating, okay, how much impact, or you can also just ask yourself, do I feel like this is worth my time? Do I feel like I am doing a great and important job? And if the answer to that is yes, then I think that's impactful. And different people at different points of their careers and in different places will have different impact, and they're all important. And if you feel that you're doing something important, it's good.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, I personally have noticed that because the work life is changing and all the, like, including myself, I am a millennial, we try to find meaning, and we're like,
yeah.
We desperately need to do something meaningful, and that's one of the reasons why the word impact is trending so much right now. I think like having a meaning and having a purpose and having an impact is like, those three words are pretty key words of every company and every organization, but also as a personal life goal to like think about like, what's the impact I'm gonna make, what's the meaning I'm gonna have, and what's like the purpose I'm doing. So I think very interesting topics. Okay, I'm gonna ask you how to follow your own visions and values. We kind of covered a little bit that, but I see you all three very brave and encouraging persons. So please share how to like make your own values impactful.
Well, I think you have to be part crazy and part really stubborn and part really brave. Or you just have to not care about what other people think, because you're gonna, like, at least if the thing that you feel that you, well, okay, for me, I can just talk about my own dream. And if my own dream, since it is creating that scalable thing that also decreases emissions, like really actually mitigates emissions, that there are not a lot of those around yet. So when you say that you want to start doing that, people are like, oh yeah, good luck. And then you have to sort of just push through that. And so what I found maybe on my personal journey so far, and it is definitely still a journey, nobody knows where this sort of ends, and that's also part of the beauty with it, that it's something you continue to do every day. The most important thing is definitely to know where that want comes, like why you want it, to know what it is you want. I mean, that sounds stupid, but it is the main, like, if you're sure about why you want to try to do this dream, why you have the dream of writing a book or of breaking into this new tech scene or speaking on a stage in front of hundreds of people, if you know why that's important to you, just know that it's really, really important. Then you keep just returning to that when you get the doubt of, okay, I didn't, like, today I failed again, or today someone asked whether, you know, you should even be trying to do this because it's so hard. If you come back to that feeling of why am I doing this and it's important to me as a person, like on an identity level, I don't know, that's where I get my strength from. I can't really, this is like a really wishy-washy answer, but that is it. I just believe in my own dream, and then, yeah, I feel like I really want to work every day to try and see it through. And that's important actually then
Yeah.
that gives strength.
And also to have the courage to dream in first place, because sometimes when you ask people like, what's your dream, what's your biggest goal, they don't know, because they're like, I don't have dreams because I'm too humbled or whatever, but like, just be brave and dream. Yeah.
I actually think it's very common that people don't know what their dreams are.
Yeah.
And to continue from what Amanda said, just go do that. But I feel that most people, like, I don't know, maybe everyone can think in their head, like, do I actually know what I want? And I've realized that many people don't.
Yeah.
And I've also been in a place where I'm like, I have no idea what I want. It's easy to say, like, just follow your dream. It's a very good advice, though, when you know. However, I think that finding it out requires a lot of honesty towards yourself and realizing that whose dreams am I actually pursuing? Is it mine, or is it the society's, or is it my parents, or is it my boyfriend's, or is it my whoever it is? Like, being ridiculously honest, being like, this actually isn't the thing that I want to spend my days with, is kind of horrifying realization, but it's also very, very healthy. Because then when you realize that, hey, this is not the thing, you can start digging deeper, being like, well, what could be the thing? And that's where dreaming comes into picture. And I've had the habit of creating lists. When I was in 2014, I was doing an internship in New York for the foreign ministry. And then we always had these weekly meetings about like culture and companies and all kinds of interesting things. And I was just writing down like crazy all about all these things, like what is Slush, this, I just heard this interesting thing, and what is Demos Helsinki, this sounds very interesting, and what is this and this and this. And I just kept on writing like, hey, this would be a nice working place one day, and this would be an interesting person to meet. And the crazy thing is that when you look back to those lists, all of a sudden you're like, oh my god, I've been working with Slush, I ended up doing an internship at Demos Helsinki. Because you just put somewhere in your head, you're like, hey, this could be nice one day. And that's also how I've found the path of like what I want, because some things have resonated more and more. So yeah, I think dreaming, for me, making lists, but also being really, really honest, and also checking in with yourself every now and then, like, is this something that I actually enjoy, or is this someone else's dream that I'm fulfilling here?
Yeah, that's a very good piece of advice. Yeah, I have the exact same thing, to-do lists person, so
And then you have
I resonate with that answer. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, lists are excellent, and maybe this kind of like referring back to my talk speech, which was about visualization. So kind of like creating those lists and kind of like mapping out what are the things you want to learn, who are the people you want to meet, what are the companies you would like to work in the future with. And as Kata mentioned, then suddenly 3 years, I did all that, and that's like the visualization part that you kind of like in your mind, kind of like mapping out your future and stuff. And like personally, I have on my like fridge, I have these post-its where I kind of like list stuff I want to do more of, and I had just put them there. Like this was last year in the beginning of the year, and there was everything from going to South America to starting a dance lecture to quality time with my friends and family to just doing awesome things. And then in the end of the year, when I was kind of like looking back at my fridge door, which is not looking good anyways, I was just like, this is cool. I actually did everything unconsciously, kind of like you're feeding all your dreams and your thoughts and the things you want to learn for a year. And consciously, you kind of like end up doing the things that you've been planning and dreaming about, which is great. And also, I think, yeah, maybe everybody at some point are also kind of like questioning what they're doing. Are they happy at their workplace? What are kind of like things they want to do before they turn 30, 40, 50, whatever. But sometimes I feel lucky that I kind of like can say that I never had a bad day at work, or I actually always been happy going to work, because, well, as millennials, you know, we tend to want to have an impact and feel that we have a purpose of everything we're doing. And I'm especially aware of this because I just wrote my master's thesis about corporate social responsibility and millennial consumption. So this kind of like impact and purpose is going very much hand in hand. with that. But for me also personally, as long as I feel happy every day, waking up, whether it's going to work or a weekend or something else, I just feel like, you know, I'm living my dream and are sort of happy.
That's your superpower for sure. Also,
That's
the
my
positive one,
superpower.
yeah.
No, but of course,
Yeah.
like, of course, people have ups and downs in
Yeah.
lives, and that's also healthy too. Like, I'm not saying I've been always happy and kind of like it's always been yes, 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 but sort of to kind of like also sometimes think like what are the things you want to learn and kind of like maybe twerk your not stay in your routines to kind of like challenge your mind and yourself and etc. But post-its on the fridge door, that works excellent for me.
I was inspired. I have one more that is because you guys were so concrete. Do things you're afraid of. Like make a habit of doing things you're afraid of. I was also part of Talk the Talk when it was way smaller. I'd never have applied if it was an application. Like if it was just like sign your name here and you're in, I would have never done it. But I was like, oh, I can apply. Like I probably won't be picked. And then I was picked and I was like, I actually don't like, I'm not brave enough to do this, but then I was already in. Like make that a habit to like go to places you don't really feel like just go outside of your comfort zone because then you train yourself that you can keep doing things that you didn't do yesterday.
What did
Basically Spark.
and now you're doing Spark.
Yeah.
Do the list.
Also,
to universal, right?
yeah, and I also think that piece of advice applies to applying jobs. You need, like, I encourage people to apply jobs that sometimes terrifies you, and it needs to be a little bit like, ooh, I'm not sure if I'm qualified for that, but I'm gonna apply anyway.
I ended up in California working with my dream company because I just sent a message to them being like, hey, I would love to have an internship there. They were like, we're actually growing the team. Are you interested in a job? I was like, yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So when you read out the job application, you need to like have at least one spot that you're like, I don't know how to do that yet, but I'm still gonna apply, because then the learning curve keeps going.
And one thing maybe I'm going to take this about like stating your dreams out loud, because actually on Twitter it was kind of like trending last week when was it Demi Lovato who like 5 years ago said that I want to sing like the national anthem on what's the Super Bowl stuff, and then she kind of like did that, and then somebody did like a blog post about famous people who've been kind of like tweeting about something, their dreams they want to do, like, you know, singing on stage with Britney Spears or doing something else, and they all did that. So kind of like, you know,
So
always.
everyone goes to Twitter now and share their dreams there.
And in 5 years, you're all gonna do it.
Let's talk about a little bit the Finnish startup ecosystem. Last year there was a lot of discussion about diversity and inclusion, and we got this new organization called Inclusive, who were here last month. We had the Think Tuesday theme with inclusion. So what do you predict will be the biggest topic this year in the Finnish ecosystem if diversity and inclusion was like last year's topic? Is it going to be the same discussion about the diversity? Yeah. Or do you feel something bubbling under at the moment?
I have to. I would love to say my prediction is that in 10 years we're not talking about impact companies anymore. I hope that all companies realize that the ones who are actually solving the biggest problems in the world are, of course, the most beneficial ones, like the most successful ones, because these problems need to be solved. So I'm not sure if this is going to happen this year. I wouldn't bet my money on it, but I hope it happens sooner than later, that we actually stop talking about impact companies and we start talking about companies that solve problems that matter. Because then all the companies can check back and be like, is the problem that we're solving, does it actually matter? Because when we talk about impact companies, it's like, well, you have these companies and then you have the real companies, which should not be the case. Like, all entrepreneurs are there to solve problems, and that's what companies are there for. They should add value. As Amanda said very well, not all companies are adding value. So I wish that the big theme for the talk would be in the near future, that, hey, by doing things that are impactful on solving problems, our business can actually be better. And this doesn't actually just need to be startups, but also larger and older companies realizing that you can make better profit by focusing on these topics. And that's something I think every stock listed company and non-stock listed company and company that started today should think of. Be like, let's solve those problems and they can be a business benefit for us. And I hope that will be the topic of ideally this year, but not sure.
Yeah. Well, firstly, I hope that the talk about diversity inclusion will not stop. That needs to continue, for sure. But yeah, I like this every year, like a trending technology, kind of like trending in the industry. It was AI one year, and suddenly all of the startups were AI companies and blockchain, and everybody were running on blockchain. Deep tech maybe also last year. I think that was kind of like one of the current trends. Actually, no clue what this year is going to be, but I kind of like agree with what Kata said, that, you know, all the companies need to have a kind of like bigger purpose and solve like real problems, which comes into this, like, we've been living through a lot of revolutions for the last years, industrial revolution, whatnot, and what we really can see for the last 10, 15, 20-ish years is this entrepreneurial revolution, where we have these amazing founders creating great companies and really, you know, doing great for the society. And maybe, like, there's been a lot of talk about, you know, bubble in San Francisco and only like Tinder for dogs type of companies being created from there. So kind of like, yes, also to figure out how these companies or people, founders, will have a different type of impact, of course, also in the future is important.
Yeah, I would like to just add actually to both of those that I guess I'm so inside the sustainability bubble that's why I like preferred to also hear sort of Jessica's comments on like the startup scene more as a whole first. But what or the one trend that came to mind was actually something that sort of is very close to what Kata said, and that's about sustainability in larger companies. And then I hope that this will spread also to the startup scene. I just actually finished making a presentation before coming here that I'm holding on Friday, where one of my slides was that 2020, the year when sustainability is on everyone's lips. I feel like right now, Spark also does consultancy, and the amount of questions we get in for, hey, can you do climate consultancy for us, is snowballing without us doing marketing, because now it's everywhere in the media, and all of the companies are finally waking up to it. And that doesn't necessarily mean, I agree that maybe it will take 10 years for companies to really, for it to sort of go down to the very core of the company, what problem are we solving. But at least it's now sort of starting to trickle down, starting to be a really important question in companies. And it was somewhere where I read about this actually, that typically this is something that companies start to do quite late in their sort of maturity. So they're already big and they already have their production and they're already multinational and everything, and they have sort of scaled very, very far, and then they're like, oh, we have an environmental footprint. And then this text or this article was about, hey, maybe we should take this and sort of plug it in at the startup phase. So that is, of course, something that sustainability startup, we wish that all startups were sustainability. I mean a little bit of the same lines of what you guys said, that should be sort of part of an integral part of the problems that you're solving, that you're at least not sort of making the environment a lot worse. Maybe the problem you're solving is somewhere else, but you're still focused on checking that your impact is not too big. Yeah. That's a trend I hope to see.
So wrapping up, it's impact and sustainability. Maybe those words are on the lips with everyone. I also, and I think also there's been a lot of discussion about the, how would I put it, kind of like passion to work as an entrepreneur. So to build your own boundaries and get your work-life balance. I don't know if I like that word personally, but like how to regress and have time to have a break and spend time from office and take your own time, because there's sadly still a lot of like burnouts and that culture that you need to work through the clock. So I think that might be as well upcoming topic like mental health and all that. Yeah, it's very important.
I hope so.
Yeah. To wrap it up, why entrepreneurship matters? Last but not least.
Well, it matters, I'd say, to like really simplify it for two reasons. First of all, because it's a really great vessel for you to do the one thing that you think needs doing in the world. Sort of if you have a passion project, and it might not even be solving a problem, it might just be that you like to play the violin, and then entrepreneurship might be a way for you to do that, for you to do the thing that you feel is what you can contribute to the world with. And then, so that's sort of from the individual perspective, and then from the world's perspective, it's a really powerful way of solving big problems. So if you manage to identify a problem and then build a scalable model that somehow addresses that, then all you really need to do is sort of let it loose. This is totally not true. We're working super hard, but yeah, this is the dream that it works that way. That's why entrepreneurship matters.
Thank
in
you.
my opinion.
You want to go first?
Sure.
God, I want to have the last word.
Well, we need entrepreneurship, because with entrepreneurship we can make the world a better place. Pretty simple and straightforward. But one thing that I also would like to kind of like highlight, because maybe not everybody are kind of like feeling that they want to become entrepreneurs in the future, but an entrepreneurial mindset, that's like the key to everything. Whether you're working for your own company or in a larger corporation, the entrepreneurial mindset is really kind of like the key in terms of making good actions happen. And that's why like also communities like in the universities, like Helsinki Think Company is kind of like the great place to gather these entrepreneurial minded people together. Some might become entrepreneur in the future and change the world, and some people might join a company later and with that great attitude have an even larger impact on the society.
I think that's an amazing point, that not everyone needs to start their own company, but working for one or finding the cause that you're interested in is very important. But we also need the entrepreneurs to start those companies so that people can join them. To wrap it up, why do we need entrepreneurship? I think entrepreneurship just exists because people see problems, as Amanda said. They want to solve them. And I see that one of the main reasons why this impact topic is such a buzzword these days is because the problems that we have today are just bigger than they used to be. Like, the impact problems are climate, are seas, are pollution, are everything, recycling. The problems are bigger and they are more meaningful. Therefore, they are the meaningful ones. We have solved many. We have fixed education to a large extent. We have fixed healthcare. So these are the next issues. And it's only natural that entrepreneurs or entrepreneurial minds are like, okay, well, these are the problems. So it's nothing about impact entrepreneurship. It's about entrepreneurship in general. And there should be people who solve these things. It's not just entrepreneurship. Of course, you can be a politician, or you can be a researcher, or you can be whatever, and affect the way how these problems are solved. But entrepreneurship is a great way to shape the world to that direction, what you want to see.
Thank you. Then we'll have 5-10 minutes for you to ask anything about from our guest speakers. If you have anything in mind, just stand up and give us a question. Anyone?
Any entrepreneurial?
I have a question.
Yeah.
I feel like for entrepreneurs, you always have like two poles, one being like your passion and your core, and then the other being like market opportunities. So I'd like to know for you how you felt like you've been pulled with those two, which is, this is my core and this is what I'm passionate about, and this is where the opportunities are, and which pull has been more rewarding afterwards.
Good question.
Who wants to answer? Amanda, maybe?
Hardest question.
A lot of that. Do you want to go first?
I think both matter, of course. You're there. Oftentimes it's both timing and product, so to say, which would mean like you need both. But sometimes if the other one is super strong, I think it might be enough. Like if you just have a market and you realize that this is what is needed now, you might not be super passionate, but you realize this, it might be good enough. But then again, if you're like, okay, I really, really, really want to fix this problem, it's not necessarily the time yet, you can still start doing. So I wouldn't say there is a general rule for which one is the right one. I'm not sure if this is the answer you're hoping for. But I would say, on the other hand, you can probably make either one work.
This is a great question, thank you. And this is something that is constantly present for me and for, I feel like, the whole team at Spark Sustainability, because to put it shortly, it's challenging to find a business model if you want to reduce emissions, because most of the business models are related to selling somebody something. So the balance between those two is constant, and we're constantly threading it and constantly trying to find how can we make enough money to be scalable and actually grow and make it work, but still stay true to the core, to the reason we're doing this. So that's something that the whole team feels and that I feel every single day. And on a personal, like, answer the question quite personally, it's, to me, the purpose is much stronger, and fulfilling that purpose and being very rigid in, I mean, some of the things that we've said no to have been very easy to say no to because they are in complete contradiction with the purpose of the company. And that always feels good. I mean, even though it's a no, even though it's an opportunity to make money and we have to say no, there is never a second doubt about it. So to me, that is stronger. But having said that, since you're trying to build, you need to find the balance. And that's maybe, like, to round that up, I would say that I find maybe joy in constantly trying to find that balance, because on the bigger scale, what we're trying to do, or the dream, what we're trying to do with having a company that has this utopian dream of mitigating emissions is also reshaping, I mean, this is going to sound crazy, but reshaping the economy. It is a little bit about proving that this can be done. And so it's going to be hard, and it's going to be like you're really balancing the whole time. But if you can find that way and be okay with it in your heart and know that you're still staying true to the purpose of the company, then you know that you're also in some little way maybe changing the system around you because you're showing others that this can be done. And I find that really, really empowering.
Can I still say something? If you have to choose the following your heart part, that's my advice. Because that goes back to our how to follow your dreams thing. You probably can make it work. And even if you don't, you'll find another way. But if you're working with something that probably should work, but you're not enthusiastic, and it doesn't work, then you just lost everything. But if you stay true to yourself and believe, like, okay, let's make this work, people will see it, and it'll shine out of you. Be like, I believe in this thing. Of course, you need to be rational, but I'm sure you are. Like, so, yeah, I would say just go with the thing that your gut feeling says is, like, this should be done.
Yeah, you can pretty fast tell if someone is not standing behind their own idea. You need to be.
Everybody wants to be with people who are enthusiastic about what they do. So pretty soon you gather a group and things are just starting to happen.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Easy.
Yeah, sounds so easy.
I'm from International Fox Agency. We are a small startup and we are building a tech product, but we are not techies ourselves. So it's not. We know that technology is a big part of the future, and our product too. It's better if we build it that way. But sometimes I question whether it's all about tech, because there's just so much discussion about tech. So do you see that absolutely everything in the future has to, like, if you have a startup, that there has to be some technological part to it, or it's not going to fly? And a second question, what would you recommend that
we read up on, or I know Maria has a lot of great events, for instance, to attend, but if somebody now has an idea in their head and they might want to take it forward, where would you direct them? Is there something we should read, or somebody's TED talk we should listen to, or something like that? Thank you.
Excellent question. I'm trying to grasp maybe where to start from. Maybe in terms of where to kind of like get started, in terms of kind of like maybe kind of like want to connect with like-minded people and etc. Well, of course, the Kutsuvat, sitä pöhinäksi kirja is a great one to kind of like get a deep dive into, you know, entrepreneurship and especially what the Finnish entrepreneurs kind of like have done. But well, there's Helsinki Think Company, of course, and these amazing programs that kind of like get started and get to know people, where you can be matched with other teammates and eventually ending up founding a company. And a lot of great initiatives in Helsinki and the Finnish startup scene in general, which are good to follow. The first question was about all about tech. Well, tech is evident in that sense that what makes startups so special is that there's tech behind it, and tech is kind of like gives the opportunity for companies to kind of like scale and become really like global changers. But in the end, I think like any business is all about people. So really about a great team, great co-founders, teammates, colleagues. That's really the key in terms of building great companies. And well, I think that's one of the common reasons if you ask also investor what makes like a good company kind of like investable, etc. It's always it goes always to the team. And also with Maria 01, we are kind of like also selecting startups to kind of like move into our community and kind of like start off their businesses there. And there also we do a lot of interviews with the companies. It always comes into the team, like, you know, do they have a great vision? Are they, of course, the background is one thing, but kind of like the good dynamics and kind of like people business, of course. So people is very important, absolutely.
Very good answer from Jessica. I would read on Hacker News and Sam Altman's and Paul Graham's blogs. They are basically were for many years behind Y Combinator, accelerator in San Francisco or Silicon Valley, where companies like Airbnb and Dropbox and these type of companies came from, and they have very concise and very clear things online about how to build startups. And of course, it's not something you can just teach online, but they have written down like so many failing points that I think it's a very good resource to just go online and read there are hundreds of them, so it'll take you a while, but it's good. That's a very good resource, I think. In terms of tech, no, I don't think tech is always needed. It's hard to be scalable without any kind of technology, and tech doesn't need to be software. You don't need to just have an app. It can be technology for food production, or it can be technology for making meat in a new way or something. But it's not very easy to scale with that technology, and that's, I'm sure, the issue you've also faced. Then again, I think the wind is turning in this sense as well. Many people are limiting their technology usage. We try to go back to our roots, so to say, take better care of ourselves, connect better with people, so I'm sure there will be new business models around these new opportunities. So it's not as easy to scale, but things that are easy are easy. So someone has already probably done them, which is the case with software world. So no, good luck. It's hard, but I'm sure it's what's going to happen. Like the whole like meditation scene and people connecting to themselves, and all of these are happening. So I'm sure there are lots of opportunities there as well.
I actually just have two things to add. I was going to say actually quite the same thing that Kata said about the tech question, that there's a lot of, I mean, yeah, you don't have to have your own tech. And I see a lot of, when I was thinking about it, there can be things that you do in person and things that are about bringing people together. that you could scale basically using existing technology, that you could just sort of spread the word or spread the movement and talk about what it is that you're sort of doing in real life or doing without technology somehow, somewhere. So answer, no, you don't have to have your own tech. But yeah, harder with harder to scale. But the second one, I was going to ask, who is it who wrote The Great CEO Within? It's an online book. It's a book, and it's freely available online. Just Google The Great CEO Within. That should also. But I'm sure you have a lot to read already from the previous tips.
Also, one practical tip: Aalto University with Aalto Venture Program and QS Accelerator just launched the Starting Up course online. It's pretty basic entrepreneur stuff, but it's still a very good concrete thing if you're interested to know more. The skills are needed. Yeah. Any more questions? Yeah.
Hi. I come from a very academic background. I was curious, how dramatic was the change from academia to business thinking? And were you able to do research after you started this? Like, did you have time? Do you do it still? Is it like interesting to you? Probably mostly to you, but you're welcome to.
So the change was big, and it was partly why I did it. But so I'm from an, how should we say this, entrepreneurial family. But my family had companies always, and I was sort of brought up into that tradition. So it wasn't, even though it was new for me in my professional life, it wasn't completely sort of out of the ordinary, or like I still somehow knew. And I guess that's also why I sort of took the lead, because I knew sort of a little bit about what you can do with companies and how powerful they could be in creating change. But yeah, definitely it's a very different everyday job, so to say, like what you do at work, and how you get to do it, like how much time you have to do different things. And when in research, it's all about really, really, really boring into the problem and really, really, really understanding everything. And if you find something, you can always find something unexpected. I mean, you can always sort of, well, rebranch and find out everything about that as well. And then when you're finished with your research, you can just say that, okay, these things we still need to research. So there, it is always about really thoroughly looking at every decision and every topic. Whilst I feel like in running and in setting up a startup and in trying to find a business model and trying to find people for your team and find investors, you never, ever have time to do enough research at all. Like as a former researcher, I'm appalled at how little knowledge there is behind some of the decisions. You just have to go. So it's very different. But it's fun. And there was another part of your question that, oh yeah, do we still do research?
Do you still do it? Like, do you consider it worth, like, because you're sort of, you come from that background, but obviously you don't do much of it anymore.
You can't do both at once, no. I tried and had a burnout last year. So I don't recommend that, but obviously part of what Spark is about is, it's based on research. So still we do allocate time to go back to that. We built our carbon calculator that is our own. We did all the research for that together with my colleague Anna, and every time when we update that, we are obviously doing research, but it's not as well funded as it was at my previous workplace. So it's not as we don't have as much time for it.
Can I just add one point about researchers and startups and entrepreneurship? Like, I would really like to see more of these research science-based like startups also to appear more in Finland, Nordics, and Europe in general, because I think most of my friends, at least when we're talking about hot and nice startups from Finland, we're thinking about Sulapak, Spinnova, and all these great companies that actually are science-based. And that's, I think, the true impact also with what you can do with research and combining that with entrepreneurship to have a true impact.
Yeah. Any more questions? Yeah.
I'm wondering if you ever had a fear of failure, and if it ever kept your dream as a dream for a long time, and classic, what made you overcome that?
Yes. I'm pretty sure everyone says yes. Yes, I've had fear of failure. Every time I do something new, I'm like, does this make sense? Is it worth it? Coming back to the question, like, what will people say? Does it matter to me? Is this smart? Will I lose some opportunities? Like, all these things we have in our head. I think just taking one step at a time is the key, and like listening to your gut and following your heart. For me, maybe one of the biggest ones when I was still writing the book. I had finished my job with Slush, and I wanted to go to California. And I knew this company there, and I had written a message to them maybe like 45 times. And I was like, I should just send this, but maybe, what if they say no? What if they say yes? What if I get to go? Like, you have all these irrational thoughts. And then someone basically pushed me to send the message, be like, just send it. And then I started discussing with them, and then it still took like 8 months before I was actually there. Same with our book. Like, I think it's always the case. You just have to allow yourself. We are our worst enemies in that sense. I'm like, I kind of know that I want to do this thing, but there are all these million reasons why not to. So then just being like, okay, this is the best that I know now. If there are other reasons that come up at some point, then I don't know about them now. Now I know that this is the thing, so I'll act accordingly. And then just send the message, and then work one step at a time. But also I think for me especially, it's important that when I have that fear of doing things, I try to make the rest of my life pretty nice. I'm like, okay, I'm allowing myself to, whatever it is, take a nap because I've been so brave today with this other thing. So just not being too hard on yourself all the time. Being like, hey, I really want to pursue this dream, but I can't just push myself all the time. Or you can, but it doesn't lead to good things. So I would say just one step at a time, keep your eye on the goal, be like, what if this would be true? And then keep on dreaming. Because then you're like, maybe this could happen. What would be even bigger and bigger and bigger and better? And then at some point you're like, wow, as Amanda said, like all these things that happened, and yeah. But also talk with people who have already done those things. Because then you see like, they've done it. It's not that hard. Good luck.
And I always encourage people to find mentors if that's any way possible. Just go and ask. If you find someone who's inspiring and they have an amazing career path or whatever the topic is for you, just go and ask them. Like if someone would come to me and be like, could you be my mentor? I would definitely go for it, because why not? Like, find yourself a mentor if
and people
possible.
always want to help. Usually, always. Like every time someone comes to me is like, could we have lunch? If I'm not super crazy busy, I'm like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So I think people.
Follow-up question: how do you reach out to people, and how do you know that they're willing to help?
You don't know. Just send messages. Like most people have LinkedIn. You can maybe find their email. You can, just Twitter. Like you have these ways to just try.
Yeah, I think people, when you talk about failure, people are thinking too much like, if I fail, people are going to think about this and that about me. And that's kind of like the more terrifying part than actually failing. And what comes to failing, in the end, nobody really cares. Nobody's going to judge you. Nobody's going to kind of like think you're a bad person. Obviously, you have friends and peer support who are obviously going to also be there. But I think kind of like the stigma around failure is that we think too much about what other people are going to think about us if we fail, and the failure is not the thing.
And what is failure?
And what is failure? And how much time do we get? No, but like small things, whether it's like failing a company, or like once I went to stage, I was moderating or like introducing a speaker, and I had like an iPad, which kind of like the battery kind of like ran out, and then I didn't have the notes there, and I didn't even know who I was going to introduce, and I was just standing there, I was just like, became super red, and then I was just like, just did some improvising, and nobody even noticed it, and I was just thinking too much of that And then I was just like, if you fail, nobody really cares. People are very like sympathetic too. And I think like, especially what has helped me the last years is that I have a super nice peer support network of amazing people from the community, which is kind of like if somebody asks me how was your day, I can really say my day was shit, and then we can talk about it and kind of like you know, be honest about ourselves and how we're doing, and like failure comes in everybody's life, but we shouldn't think about that too much. And obviously that is also the things that are making us stronger, however cheesy that might sound, but it's true.
I again have a micro and a macro answer to this. The micro one is I'm a Swedish-speaking Finn, and ever since I started working, I always the smallest thing, like writing an email in Finnish and being sure that A, it's actually real Finnish, and B, I'm not by mistake insinuating something that I didn't mean. Like sort of that the tone is right, that I'm not being too direct or not direct enough, or all of these things that are still different between languages. That used to be back about 10 years ago when I like sort of was in my first job, and then like going forward from there, that used to be like a really like that's a micro failure thing. Like you're writing the email like 40 times or spending 20 minutes doing it because you're like, is it this sound or this word or that word? And then I just got into I said earlier that get into the habit of doing things you're afraid of. I got into the habit of just like, I had a maximum like amount of minutes that I could spend on an email, and then I was just like, take a deep breath and press send, and just like press send before you like even breathe out, just like press send, and then they just went, and then you sort of like get used to the feeling of being like you're afraid, but you're doing it anyway. And this is like the smallest thing, like sending an email. And probably, I mean, people who are writing emails in their own mother tongue make spelling mistakes all the time. Nobody actually cares. But for you, when you know that this is a weakness, you feel super terrified that they will judge you based on that. So then you just get into this habit that, okay, I'm just going to send it before I'm ready. I'm like just sending. And then it's suddenly not a thing anymore. But this is really, really micro. But the macro one, your question really resonated with me, because as a person who never thought I was going to be an entrepreneur and who doesn't have the whole sort of network from, I mean, I have a lot of friends who were very, very active in Slush, but I wasn't, and I don't feel like or it didn't used to feel like I'm part of the whole entrepreneurial sort of network, or that I have that peer support. I used to be a researcher, and I was like in the mindset that I'm going to continue to be a researcher in like a really short time. Like I'm just going to jump off and like test this idea, and then we're going to go back. Or it's going to fly and it's going to be amazing, and I'm never going to have to doubt myself. And then turns out, big surprise, that it didn't fly right away, and I still didn't feel like, oh, but I'm going to go back right away. I felt like this could still work. Like I still want to try. I still want to try. And it just ends up taking longer than you think. And I think part of what led to my burnout last year was that for 2 years or 2.5 years, I was crippled, absolutely crippled personally by this huge fear of failure. And that is related to building, and now I'm going to say this in sort of the cliche way, an impact startup, like a company that is more about the impact than about the profit. And all of this way that we talked about today, that we don't want to divide companies into impact and profit, but still in sort of in today's language, or in what we hear a lot still, and which is ironically what we're trying to fight right here today. I felt like people weren't taking that seriously, and like I was asked that, well, sort of like I was the young girl who had this very utopian dream, and people were like, that's not probably going to work out. And I felt like that was happening, like that it was failing, or like that I wasn't sure it was going to work because it takes so long. And I'm still not sure, but something changed along the way. And that has to do, and this is my point, sorry, very, very long run, but my point is that I think you need to learn, if you're doing something big and scary, at least for me, I needed to learn to decouple my self-worth from the project. The project is super risky. The project it's crazy, and nobody knows if it's going to work. I love working with it, but that does not mean that I am the project. And if the project fails, then it fails. And I was really, really good and brave for working on it, and so was everyone else in the team. And for the longest time, I didn't have that decouple. So I felt like if the project fails, I fail, and everyone will ridicule me and think that I was naive and little and I don't know, stupid. Yeah. So yeah, do what you're afraid to do and decouple yourself from the big, possibly failing project.
That's like probably the best point of this whole discussion. Like, don't think that you are your failures. So that's a very good point. But also, I would say that realizing that if you fail here now, this is like you're still in the right place. It's not like failing in this brings you to a wrong place, because then if you go to the wrong place, then you learn something and you end up in the right place. So you're always in. I think oftentimes we're like, should I do this because then I might lose something, some other opportunities. But you're in the right place all the time. That has helped me in addition to this.
My previous boss gave me a piece of advice when I was super young and I had a lot of responsibilities. I was super stressed out, and she was like, okay, Liisa, take a break. No one is dying if you fail. You're not a heart surgeon or whatever. No one is dying if you fail this event or whatever I was doing at that time. And that is something I come back to whenever I'm like super stressed and I'm like, okay, what's the purpose if I fail? Like, who no one's gonna die because I'm not, thank God, I'm not a heart surgeon or a doctor who can actually kill someone. Hopefully not, never. But, you know, just like things are scalable and you need to think the bigger picture. Yeah. Thank you for this amazing discussion. I hope you enjoyed. We have a guest keynote speaker from Sweden. Let's give a big hand for our guest, Katariina Salazar, who's taking the stage. Yes. Is it better?
Yeah, please take one and share with everybody. Take one. Okay. I was here listening all of the really amazing talk with everybody. But first, we are here and we are for my business, no? I think so. Do you know each other? We are no practices. We need to practice in real what we are doing. Please, you have only 3 minutes. Forget 5 business cards. If you don't have business card, you need to improve your business. You need to make a pitch. You need to find 5 people for make business. Okay, you have only 3 minutes. There are a lot of people here. Ready? For go and find people for my business. Please go, move. Okay, 3 minutes, go. Talk with somebody. Make business. Try to do something. Move, move. Hey, how are you? Carolina, nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Okay. Hey, Johanna, what is your business? What are you doing?
Well, what are we supposed to do? I was taking a call. I know.
Okay. Yeah?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I
Okay.
missed the...
We are going to make an exercise doing the first thing that we are doing here, business.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to know each other. We need to know 3 people, 5 people in 3 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, run.
3 people.
In 5 minutes.
Okay. And what they do and why they're here.
Yeah. And
Yes, so actually we're working together at the moment to start our own business.
okay.
And it's going to be an online media
Okay.
or sort of a community built around food
Okay.
and our relationship to food, which we feel is quite complicated nowadays.
Okay.
So there's a lot of different options available, lots of information, but it's really hard to know what's what and what to go for. And then it's also something that seems to be making a big impact in the scale of the whole world, not just individually.
Yeah.
And then it can be really stressful.
Yeah.
And people can make it really difficult. And so what we're trying to do is make it more fun, make it more interesting, make it more inspiring to cook and to eat and to just discuss food in general.
Okay.
So that's what we're working on. I'm not going to give you my card because it's for the company that I currently work for, but that's not as interesting.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank
How
you.
about you?
I am from Sweden. I'm working with entrepreneurs. We create different kind of businesses around them, and we normally test the ideas, everything around the ideas. We believe that all of the ideas are nice, but not all of the ideas are good for the market. And we try to push the entrepreneur people for be realistic. That is the most difficult thing.
Yeah.
Not everything is done and all of the ideas that are perfect for the market. You need to go for the market and question the market. And you need to solve the first problem. You need to solve the problem for them. You need to understand the need that they have, and after you come back and create the perfect product.
Exactly. Yeah. Makes sense.
Normally it's the other side when we are working.
Makes sense.
Good. This is just for the live video. So speak up higher to everybody.
Okay.
And you can hold this there, right? This is just the mic for the live stream.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So hold this down on
Okay.
the screen.
Perfect. Okay. Okay, everybody. Okay. Okay, everybody. Okay, everybody. Okay, everybody. How many people you find? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hello. Okay. How many people you find for make business? How many people? 1, 2, 3. It's
I have one more.
perfect. Perfect. It's really fun, but also it's realistic when we're coming for this kind of sessions. You're not ready. We're not ready. Who is coming with his business cards? Who has business cards? I don't need. You need. Yeah, for sure that you need. Maybe you need. There are not only paper business cards. You can use your phone, but you need. You need a business card. You need to business. You need to go and talk with the people. You are coming here and you are sitting only in front and looking in front of the stage and looking the people that is like me that believe that knows everything about their lives. No. The most important people is behind you. And you never look behind. He will be your client, your customer, your partner. And you lose the time. Because you are not adjusted for observe the world. The entrepreneurial people need to be ready for look around. They need to discover what is happening around him. How you can make alliance. Who will be your partner? How? Who is near to you? Maybe your competence. And you are talking, and he says, maybe he can get your idea, and you don't know. Because you don't question. It's very good that you like to be entrepreneur, but please, think. You need to be smart. How many people are here? 20? 40? One car? Or any? Oh, I came for a very nice talk. The knowledge is not everything. You are here for my business. For understand how works the business. Or no? Yes, for sure. You are here for my business. For understanding your idea is working. For trying to keep the market. For understand what happened outside. And also, for make a really good friends. But you forgot the most important thing. Share with others. Talk with others. Understand others. Observe. Listening. Not only with the people that is in front of you. You need to understand the world and how it's working. Somebody was talking about dreams. Everybody have dreams here? Everybody? Really? Are ready? Do you have a dream when you're awake and you're sitting in your bed? Are you ready for the dream? Or you need to find a dream? What happened? All days, day by day. Are you fighting? Or are you enjoying? It's really difficult to fight. You need to understand how and in which kind of side you are going to do something different. And this is the meaning when we try to be entrepreneurs. When I was younger, like you, in my time, we have not entrepreneurs. But now the millennials, like you, they are the powerful, stronger, and amazing will that is making differences, a big difference around the world. The world not need more money. The world needs different kind of behavior and attitude, and you are here for that. And we need to know, and we are ready for you. It's really important that you understand why is the reason that you are here, and try to challenge your dream. You have a paper? Okay, I like that you write your dream there. Okay. I like that you write your dream there. Okay. Okay. It will be maybe 2, 3, 4 words. You can try to do, okay? You can try to do, okay? Try it. Okay?